All right. Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Shadows podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Bodie, and I'm very, very honored. I'm very excited to have with us today. We've been hyping it up here for our Halloween episode. She's an author and actress. She's the Scream Queen, Dee Wallace. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here on the Shadows podcast.
Well, it's my great pleasure. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. That's right. We've definitely been leading up to this, hyping up to it. And I can't think of a cooler guest to have here with us today than you. You've been filming today, right?
Yes, I was filming earlier in the day. Yeah.
So it's a long day for you.
Well, every day's kind of like that for me. I film, then I do a healing session with people, then I negotiate something else. I write my e-blast, I work on my publishing, and that works for me. It doesn't work for a lot of people, but for me, I'm happy if I'm creating something.
Yeah.
So yes, does it sometimes get overwhelming? But then I'm in charge of that, right? So I can pull back, I can take time off, I can say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But most of the time, I'm really into everything I'm doing.
Yeah, if you go over to imdwallace.com, you can see exactly. I mean, you were doing a lot of stuff. You were very busy. So folks, go check out her website as well. But ma'am, to get started here, talk to us about your upbringings. You grew up in Kansas City, correct?
I did. I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. Very poor home. Both my parents worked. My dad, after the war, turned to alcohol. So he was a pretty severe alcoholic and ended up committing suicide when I was a senior in high school.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's, we all have our stories, right? Yeah. We all have those stories of where we came from and where we were a victim in our lives. Mm-hmm. The point is not to keep telling your story and to go, okay, that's what happened. What do I want to create now? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be now? Right? And that's up to us. That's not up to any of the people that hurt us.
Yeah.
So I got my teaching degree, taught a year of high school, and then went, boy, if I'm going to get out of here, I better go now. So I left for New York to seek my fame and fortune, and the rest is kind of history, as they say.
What were some of the early struggles you had breaking into acting?
I have to honestly tell you, I didn't have a lot.
Wow.
And I think it's due a lot to naivete. I'm a big believer in naivete, because if you're naive, you just go, oh, well, everything will work out, kind of like Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And then the universe kind of just takes you where you're supposed to go, right? And it did. I mean, I'd be at a coffee shop and a guy would look over and say hi, and I'd say hi, and he said, you look like you just got here. I said, I did. I'm from Kansas. And he came over and sat down and started telling me how to take the subways and how to do the buses and the best answering services to sign up with back then when we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
And we're still friends today.
Wow.
So met another guy. He took me to a Halloween party. By the end of the party, his friends came up to me. He said, we'd like you to come by the office on Monday because we think we'd like to work with you. I went, oh, what do you do? Well, they were the biggest commercial agents in New York. So, that's what I mean. When you just commit to what you want to do and feel a lot of excitement and love around it, the universe says, well, let's go play with her. And It sure did. It sure did.
Well, I want to talk about some of those movies that you were in. First, The Hills Have Eyes in 1977.
Yep.
That How was it filming that?
Hard. We shot in the Mojave Desert, so it was deathly hot during the day and very cold at night. We had one trailer for all the actors, so I spent a lot of time in my car. The bathroom would break,
Oh
and
no.
I mean, it was like, let's put on a show, right? But when you get a lot of talented people together, it doesn't really matter because the final outcome is really good.
Yeah.
I mean, who would think that film would still be a cult classic today? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I'm trying to picture like a broken bathroom, cannibals, the
Yeah.
family, like everybody like all in that one trailer.
Yeah.
Wow.
But everybody just wanted to work.
Yeah.
Wow, it was the lead in a movie. Okay, we'll all see in one trailer.
Well, I think it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I believe like hearing about that they said like they were using like pig blood, and it was in middle of Texas, and it was hot, and the suit was stinking and everything, but it's a great movie.
Yeah, well, you don't even want to hear the stories of Cujo.
Oh, we're getting to Cujo.
Oh my God.
Next one I want to ask you about is The Howling, and awesome movie. But that scream that you had in there
At the end?
Yeah. So talk to us about The Howling.
Well, that scream, Joe said to me, "It's all right, Dee, save your voice. We're going to put it in post." And I went, "Well, Joe, give me a shot. Give me a shot at doing." So that's actually my scream, and they echoed it. And that's what we used.
So no effects or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
Wow.
I think that's all me.
How was it filming that movie?
Well, it was another let's put on a show.
Yeah.
Much more organized than The Hills Have Eyes. I did have my own trailer.
No, weren't sharing with werewolves or anything?
No, I was sharing it with my husband. Well, he was my fiance at the time.
Christopher Stone?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was challenging because most of the shooting was at night, so your brain goes, wait, where am I? Who am I? What the hell time is it? But working with Joe Dante was just a joy.
Yeah.
And all the seasoned character actors that were in there. I mean, we would sit around the campfires at night and they'd tell us stories, and wow, it was pretty amazing. And it was exciting to me to have the challenge of that lead role.
Mm-hmm. Was that the one where I saw like in an interview you were talking about Christopher Stone? You got him like hired for it, but you didn't really. You kind of just like name dropped him, or was that Cujo?
Yeah, no, that was The Howling, and the producer Dan Blatt called and said, we got a great cast for you, Dee, but we can't find the guy to play your husband. And I said, well, what are you looking for? And he said, well, we want somebody really virile, but that has this sensitive side. And I went, oh my God, I'm engaged to him and he's an actor. Why I didn't put this together before, and I'm not a real blonde. So but in that instant, I knew if I said, oh my God, I'm living with the guy, they would have gone, no freaking way, right? Yeah. So I said, yeah, there's this guy I did ships with, Christopher Smith or Stone, some S name. So they went out and they found him and called him in, and he went in and auditioned, and they hired him. And the next day, Dan calls and I pick up and he goes, Dee? And I said, hi, Dan. And he went, Oh, I must have called the wrong number. You know that guy you suggested? Well,
Oh,
we had him come in and we hired him. And I said, no, you called the right number. And there was this long pause and he goes, oh shit.
it's like well played.
Guys are going to gang up on me, right? Ultimately, was really happy that Chris came aboard because I could really go very far into La La Land, and Chris could very easily be the one to bring me back.
How was that working on a set with him?
Oh, it was great. We worked together great. And we worked together totally opposite ways.
Yeah.
He was very old school. He broke everything down. Where am I coming from? Where am I going to? What's my intention? I was taught this amazing technique where you just get your energy really high and you don't think. You just open up your channel and be the character.
Yeah.
So there's the one scene where he has to hit me when we're in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And Joe says to me, well, show me, I'm sure you rehearsed this, guys, show me what you came up with. And Chris said, I'm sorry, my leading lady doesn't rehearse. Joe looked at us and he went, you guys didn't figure out how. I said, look, he knows how to throw a hit and I know how to take one. We trust each other.
Yeah.
So we got it on the first take.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've seen you're big on first takes. Like you did a lot of first takes, got it done, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I have learned to be as in the moment on the second, third, fourth, fifth, but there's something about the first take when you aren't expecting things and you're all surprised, that just has a little bit more of an edge
to
it.
Yeah. Well, now I have to ask about Cujo. You said that's the hardest thing.
Oh, dear God.
That you ever did. I love Cujo too. Like my daughter.
It's my favorite movie of mine.
Yeah, she finally watched it with me and loves it. But what was so hard about filming Cujo?
Okay, did you see it?
I did. I love it.
Well, the emotional trauma that was in every scene, the physicality that it took to do every scene. And, I'm working with a 6-year-old kid and a dog. So when the 6-year-old kid and the dog work at the same time, they're going to print it.
Yeah.
Which means Dee has to be on all the time.
Yeah.
And it was just relentless. They treated me for exhaustion for 3 weeks after that film.
Wow.
I blew out my adrenals because your body doesn't know the difference between acting and reality.
Yeah.
So your body chemically thinks that you are going through fight or flight for all that time.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And, Dan, there's one great story, that scene where Danny's saying, I want my daddy, right? And I pick him up and say, I don't get you, your father, right? And the next day, Dan comes to me and says, so Dee, we need you to look at these dailies. It's such a powerful scene, but we're afraid that the people will not like you. So I went to look at it and I said to Dan, if you cut this scene, you're crazy. There is not a parent in the world that has not felt that moment. Maybe they didn't act on it, but they sure as hell have felt it. And of course, it was one of the scenes that the critics talked about the most.
It's called The Grocery Store with a child, where you have that moment.
Yeah, we've all felt it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even feel it with my granddaughter.
Yeah. How was it with the dogs? There was 13 dogs on set?
Yeah, and they were impeccably trained by Carl Miller. They were all trained to go after toys.
Yeah.
So we had to tie their tails down with fish wire. We left them wagging in a couple of scenes because it looked even more menacing.
Yeah.
But they were just impeccably trained, those dogs. And we all had to be ready to go because they had to put the blood and the foam was egg whites. So we had to go exactly when they called action because the dogs would lick all the egg whites off.
Yeah.
Right. So there was just, and it was raining and cold. Everybody thinks it was so hot. No.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, rainy and cold. I looked at Danny and his little lips and cheeks were just chattering. And I said, Louis, is there some way you can put a heater in the front of the car for us? So they did. They cut a piece of the car and put it in, but it was challenging. The whole movie was really challenging.
Wow. That's good to hear all that stuff. Well, not good to hear that you went through all that, but now it gives you a different spin on it when you watch it. And my wife, I have to ask about this because she's a huge fan of this one. I like it too. Critters.
Yeah.
What do you remember most about filming Critters?
Having a lot of fun. But again, so many nights, you know, we had to shoot so many nights, but I did have my own trailer. But it was just what I remember are the guys, we'd be in this big emotional scene and the guys would be standing over there going, okay, roll them in now. And they literally roll them across the camera, right? It was pretty funny. But again, great actors to work with. I even got Scott Grimes hired on my series that I did after that, Together We Stand. And of course, he's gone on to have a great career of his own. But Critters was just fun and crazy. And we laughed a lot with the Critters.
Yeah, my wife, when we met you at Days of the Dead in Atlanta, I had my ET poster ready to go, and my wife is like, I really hope she has something at her table that's Critters, because I was supposed to have ordered a Critters poster before we went there, and you did. You saved me. But yeah, that's
I've got pretty good stuff on my table.
Oh, you really do. You really do. And one of the things I want to kind of break from the horror before we get into your book and all the other stuff you're doing. I have to ask you, I mean, I can't sit here and have an interview with Dee Wallace and not ask you about E.T. And, you know, first of all, how was it filming that? But then I have a follow-up question for it as well.
Well, look, filming anything is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It just is a lot of work. There's a lot of waiting. There's very long hours. And depending on the film, like if it's like Cujo, it's just about kills you. But it's work. You know, but E.T. was going to work with a genius for a director.
Mm-hmm.
And with 3 kids that were precocious and talented and just, you know, I like working with kids. They don't come in with any ideas. And they're just in the moment with you. And those kids were so incredibly talented.
They went on to do some notable stuff.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they were so talented. Even the minor parts, the kids, very talented.
Yeah. How come there wasn't a sequel for that one?
Well, I think because Stephen wanted to leave it a classic.
Yeah.
He asked me what I thought. They were already asking him, will you make a sequel? And he said, what do you think, Dee? And I said, I think you should leave it a classic. And I said that before it had even come out.
Yeah.
But I knew reading that script that was a really, really special script that was going to do a lot for the world.
That's one of the things I was going to ask is, did you have any idea it would, we'd be sitting here in 2021 still talking about it?
No. And you never do.
Yeah.
But as a creative person, you just go in to do the very, very, very best that you can in the most truthful way that you can. And then the editing has to come together. The music has to come together. The marketing has to come together, and most of all, is the public ready for that message at that time?
Yep.
And God knows, don't we need an ET right now?
Yeah, I was at Universal last week and they still have the ET ride. They still have the souvenirs and everything for it, and people were buying it. And yeah, it's no ET. You had mentioned to me when I was talking to you in Atlanta that people have come up to you throughout the years and told you like success stories as to how ET has actually helped people with their lives. What are some of those stories that you've heard from people?
Oh, this one young man came up to me and said, Miss Wallace, I was in junior high when ET came out. And my mom and dad had gotten divorced and we lived in a really small town. And when my mom and dad got divorced, I was outcast. My friends wouldn't talk to me. And then ET came out and you were a single mom. And all of a sudden it was all okay. And I had another mom come up to me with tears in her eyes. Her son was autistic and she had never heard him speak a word. And she took him to see the re-release of E.T. And on the way home, he started saying every line that E.T. says in the movie.
Wow.
I mean, she said, you're a part of a miracle in my life. Can you imagine if you've never heard your kid talk for 10 years?
Wow.
I mean, I was bawling with her at my table.
Yeah.
The movie just transcends something, and it reaches our heart, and it reminds us of what's true.
Speaking of Cujo, my dogs don't understand that I'm recording right now.
Oh, that's all right. They pick up the energy. That's a good sign.
Yeah. So, well, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing those stories. Now I want to talk about your book that you have coming out, Born, which is available for pre-order. It comes out in December. We're going to have links for it in this episode description as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, a lot of people don't know that I'm a healer. I have a whole healing practice. I'm a channel. And this is my 6th book on the art of creation. And I guarantee you, if you read this book and you apply everything there is in it, you will start manifesting like crazy in your life. It's almost miraculous. And it goes back to the stories I was telling you when I first went to New York, that the universe just starts playing with you. It's so much fun when you know how to do it. And it's really simple. It's simple. Creation is simple. And I go through everything you need to know in 140 pages. It's called Born, Giving Birth to a New You.
Yeah. And I was doing some research looking around on it, and, it doesn't look like it, sometimes you read books like that and it applies to like one religion. It looks like you've got,
no.
Applies to everybody.
No. It doesn't go against any religion.
Yeah.
It doesn't propose. It actually shows you how religion, spirituality, and brain science are all saying the same thing.
That's awesome. So yeah, and they can pre-order it at iamdeewallace.com.
Well, yes, or the links that you should.
Yep.
Somebody should have sent you the links.
We'll have that in there as well.
It's open for pre-order on Amazon and on Barnes and Noble. And so you'll be the first to get it December 1st when it comes out in print.
And we'll have all of those in
Just
that
in time
spirit.
for Christmas.
Exactly.
And I just got a notice from my publisher that my children's book just got finalized and okayed. So I'll have the link to it. And I'm so excited. It's called Bupalopaloo and the I Love Me's.
Wow.
And it's the first book in a series that teaches kids the principles of creation.
Wow.
And that, oh my gosh, the drawings, the illustrations are just amazing.
Do you have an estimated release date on that one?
Oh, it should probably be out the 1st of December too.
Oh, yeah. I was like, if you have a link for that, we'll drop that one in here as well.
Yeah, I don't have a link for that one yet, but everybody can look for it.
Okay. Absolutely. We'll have that in here. Final
And
question
my links
for you.
are on my website too.
So. Okay. Well, I think we have a link tree as well. So we'll have.
Yeah, perfect.
Final question for you. Looking back at your legacy, all the amazing, body of work you've done, the books that you've put out. I mean, you have quite an imprint. What do you want to be known for?
I want to be known for love. I want to be known for teaching love. And sometimes the best way to teach love is to take people through fear.
Yeah.
So that they can see that they have the power to survive anything.
That is awesome. And ma'am, starting off and, telling us a little bit about your story and some of the stuff you've been through, and you are still sitting here smiling, positive as can be, doing some amazing things. This was awesome for me. I mentioned to you before we came on the air. I remember as a kid going to the movie rental places with the rubber bands around the box and having to go to the front and ask. I remember checking out those VHSs, and my sister Myers and I would go to these stores, and she was all into the horror movies. I was not into them until I got older, but I remember her watching Critters, because I remember like, what in the, little 7-8-year-old version of me was terrified looking at the box, but she loved that stuff. And here today, the 27th of October, recording this, it would have been her 38th birthday. So this is just so cool for me. It's such a cool life, to sit here and be able to do this with you today. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
You are so welcome. Opportunity. And Myers is sitting right there with you, loving on you. You can communicate with her anytime. And it was my honor to do this on Myers' birthday. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And folks, that is going to conclude this episode of the Shadows Podcast.